public. Interesting. But I think that is the good dynamic to it now, which is that, well, if the Met got their backsides in gear and rattled through this quicker, then we would have some form of resolution, and then the BBC can go on and do whatever they need to do. But the BBC has, of course, absolutely copped it for the way that it handles this latest episode. You hate to see it, don't you? But how should they have dealt with it better? And also, crucially as well, what should this individual be doing now, the unnamed BBC presenter? I am joined by none other than crisis management specialist Andy Barr, the kind of chap I imagine I should probably have on speed dial. But Andy, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Let's start, if it's OK with you, with the unnamed presenter. What should they do?
Good afternoon. Well, it's a car crash, isn't it? And I think he's trying to keep quiet. He's trying to keep it out of the. He's trying to keep, his brand, I guess, out of the firing line. But the reality is, he can do very little. It's a police matter at the minute. The investigation's ongoing, and until that all comes out, there's nothing really he can say.
I'll tell you what, I'm just going to change the dynamic of this slightly, if that's all right, and talk a little bit about the Sun with you, because there was a moment in time in this story which has ebbed and flowed, where all of a sudden it looked as though the Sun were going to absolutely cop it for a second. There will no doubt be meetings going on there about potential crisis management as well. At some point, one would imagine that they will have to put up or shut up. Do you think that the Sun is worried about its reputation in all of this?
Oh, very much so. I think on Tuesday morning, when the BBC came out quite bullish after the lawyers saying that the story was rubbish, it did look like the Sun was having a load of questions that they needed to answer themselves. But if you fast forward a bit now, there's actually four different parties in this, and I think you outlined this earlier. You have the BBC, who've handled it terribly. You've got the Sun, who are saying they don't want to reveal everything until they've spoken to the police. You've got the person in question, and now you've got the police force, the Met Police, who are starting to get accusations that maybe they are moving a bit slowly with this. Everybody needs closure on it, the BBC and the person in question.
No, indeed. Now, there will be an inquest into this with the BBC. From what we know so far, and this is in relation to that first allegation, which is actually also the allegation that may contain elements of criminality to it, as we understand at the moment, in relation to age, etc. The BBC are saying that they knew about this for 2 months. They didn't really contact the unnamed presenter. They made, they might as well have tried to send a homing pigeon round to that individual's family's house, the way they went about it there. One email that went unanswered and supposedly one unanswered phone call as well. It's not really enough, is it really? And people will draw parallels, or there's a world of difference between the allegations, Andy, parallels between previous scandals and what's going on here now, and ask whether or not lessons have been learned. Is there a chance that the BBC just emerges looking like a bit of a cesspit here?
Well, I think social media is always going to look like the cesspit, not so much BBC. Obviously, its news reporting is respected around the world. But I think what the issue is that it's shown itself to be a slow juggernaut again. It's been too slow to respond. We know that this first happened in May, and we're led to believe that the Director General wasn't briefed until last week. Well, something's gone wrong there in the crisis communications process, in the escalation process. It's just not worked. It's too slow. And in the modern 24-hour news media agenda that we've got, and if in the sort of cesspit of social media, that's just not quick enough.
Andy Barr there, of course, who is a crisis management specialist. Thank you very much for your wisdom and expertise on this issue. And there's a fair few people who might need to manage a crisis here, really, aren't there, at the moment? This story just keeps getting bigger and bigger. There's the BBC, there's the unnamed presenter, potentially the Sun, although I think it's really actually genuinely fair to say now that we've had this slew of different allegations and whatever frankly comes next, that I think the Sun is looking increasingly like they were right to raise this to the public attention, but also the Met Police. Now, I suspect that's where the focus is going to shift into tomorrow if we don't hear anything. They are dragging their feet on this. Di Davies, former top cop at the Met, was on this very show not so long ago saying, look, what on earth are the police playing at? Surely they will be able to have evidence now, decide whether to do anything with it or not. He never heard about this phrase, we're scoping out an investigation. He doesn't know what that means. gbviews@gbnews.com. But we are going to finish with something, as they say, a little bit different. Now, a small town in Suffolk has been revealed as the Satanist capital of Britain, it's fair to say there's a few interesting characters there, and I will be talking to not one, but potentially two of them in just a tick.